A new report shows more than half of the American population has had a family member incarcerated at some point in their lives. 113 million Americans have had an immediate family member in prison.
So you can go ahead and add the most incarcerated people per capita to the list of things America is best at. Along with having more guns per people, the most money spent on the military, and the most mass shootings per year. Great, right? A new report from FWD and Cornell University has found that nearly half of all adult Americans have had a family member incarcerated at some point in their lives. The study shows 113 million adults in the US, or 45%, have had an immediate family member incarcerated. 1 in 7 adults have had a family member locked up for more than a year. The US continues to hold firm that top spot as the nation that incarcerates more people than any other country, with a staggering 6.5 million adults stating they have a family member currently in jail or prison. And of course, shock horror, minorities are disproportionately affected. No, really? The report finds that incarceration rates are far higher for minorities. Black Americans are 50% more likely than white Americans to have a family member who is incarcerated, and nearly 54% of incarcerated parents were primary breadwinners for their family. I'm sure the keyboard warriors will be getting great use out of their mum's internet package as they type, "What, are we supposed to just not put people in prison?" Or another favorite of theirs which comes up, which is, "Black people commit most crime, of course they're in jail." But as you will find with most rational people, by investigating these issues even just a little more closely, we can understand how ignorant and superficial those arguments are. Countless studies have shown that the incarceration rate for non-violent offenses contributes greatly to the number of people incarcerated, specifically drug charges. Speaking of, weed. And the simplest of Google searches reveals that black people are 3.73 times more likely than whites to be arrested for marijuana use despite using the drug at the same rate. Furthermore, a study by US Sentencing Committee found that between fiscal years 2012 and 2016, black men specifically received sentences 19.1% longer for the same federal crimes as white men. And that's just 5 minutes on Google. Imagine what you could come up with if you spent hours researching, right? Because the systemic injustices that minorities face, which contribute to the numbers conservatives often cling to in their attempts to avoid further exploring these issues, are endless. More likely to be arrested, more likely to be wrongfully convicted, more likely to be denied bail. It goes on and on. As the incarceration numbers continue to rise, so do the dollar signs. Well, for the private prisons and private organizations whose businesses primarily profit from the staggering incarceration rates. One example outlined in the New Yorker is the prison phone industry, a market that's dominated by several large privately held firms that earn an estimated $1.24 billion per year. Short phone calls from prison can cost up to $15, largely because the companies operate as monopolies within the prisons. Meanwhile, studies have found that in some jails they've replaced in-person family visitation rooms with video visitation terminals. And you can take one wild guess who provides those. The same private firms, which can charge as much as $30 for 40 minutes of screen time. One prison phone company, Securus Technologies, says in its marketing materials that it has paid out $1.3 billion in these so-called commissions over the past 10 years. And this is just one example. There are countless other private corporations who benefit from high incarceration rates. And this is why we must pay attention to this. This study should not just appear on your timeline and then vanish because Cardi B and Offset may be getting back together. Not only do the systemic issues lead to more people being thrown in jail, but the incentives in place to keep the cells filled to max capacity. We need to be investing more in rehabilitation instead of immediate incarceration. There are families all across the country whose lives have been torn apart by a system that profits from their disintegration. It's time that we demand our public figures tackle mass incarceration. For more on this, join me on my Instagram at Francis M. Maxwell. You can also become a member, tyt.com/Francis. Want to see more videos like this? Then subscribe to the TYT channel below. And don't forget to become a TYT member. Get access for as little as $4.99 a month. Download the TYT Plus app on your phone or head over to tyt.com/join today.